Hey, what's up guys? In today's video I'm going to be going over the Kyrian Covenant and specifically on how it works with Enhancement Shaman. Most of this stuff probably also applies to Elemental, but I'll mainly be going over the specifics for Enhancement Shaman for this Covenant. So first of all, when you pick the Kyrian Covenant, you get the ability that every single person gets, which is called Summon Steward. He will basically bring you 3 vials of Serenity, it's called, and when you consume it, you restore 15% health, you remove all your curses, all your diseases, all your poisons, and your bleed effects. Which is actually very strong. So if I call him here, he's gonna bring me 3. I already have 3, so it's not gonna do anything. Then he also gets some other abilities. So for example, I can change my talents, or I can tell my friends how great they are. This only works once a day, however, but it is there, so if you want to save some money on changing talents, you can do it once a day. Now besides that, we get an ability specific for our class, which in our case is Vesper Totem. This will summon a totem at the target location for 30 seconds. It will make our next 3 damaging spells deal damage to up to 6 enemies, and our next 3 heal spells heal up to 6 allies. These are separate from each other, so you can damage 3 times and heal 3 times. It's not that if you damage 3 times, you can't heal 3 times anymore. So I'm going to show you how it works. It works up to 6 enemies, so I'll show it here. I place it down, anything works, anything that damages. So for example, I can Frost Shock, they take the damage, I can use my Sundering. It works anywhere you are. So if I'm attacking this mob, it's also gonna trigger. Now if I attack a 4th time, it's not gonna do anything because it already used all of the stacks. Now if I cast the heal ability, the person that's here is gonna get healed, and I can do this 3 times. It disappeared because of 30 seconds, but I can do it 3 times. Also, while it's up, if you press it again, you can place it in a different position. So if the tank pulls something and it's in the wrong position, you can replace it on the boss. Now, if we look at the damage of the ability, it does about 1025, was that? 1030? Okay, yeah, it has some slight variance, but it did about actually, we can check here. The non-crits, on average, 1050. So it hits 3 times. This is 3150 every minute on single target if we don't crit. And on the AoE, it's about 15k every minute if we don't crit, which we probably will, but that's the default value. The reason I'm mentioning this is because when I go over the other covenants, I'm going to be calculating how much DPS they do as well, just to see pure number-wise which is the better one. Now there's one thing you can get with this covenant. It's a potency conduit called Elysian Dirge. It will make the Vesper Totem 100% more effective against the target nearest to it. So on single targets, this would make the DPS go from 3k DPS if no crits, 3k damage every minute to 6k damage. On AoE, it would go from 15k to 18k. So on AoE, obviously it doesn't matter much because it's the closest target, but on single target, it's basically 100% damage increase. Also, I believe that is rank 1 of the Conduit, which means that a higher rank will deal more damage. Now let's go over the Soulbinds. So let's start with Pelagos. By default, Pelagos gets, when you use a spell or ability, you increase your versatility by 1% for 10 seconds. Using another spell or ability, increase this amount by 1%. When it's not a repeat of the previous spell or ability, stacking to 5. In other words, you have 5% versatility at all times. Now you might think, wow, 5% damage, that's pretty crazy. Well, it's not that crazy because I have 3.12% versatility right now. If I do 5 different abilities or spells, I'll show you how much I get again. You don't see the percentage going up. There's a good reason for this. Oh, actually, I forgot one ability. Yeah. 5% is from 3.12 to 3.28. So you gain 0.16% DPS. It's not that crazy. If you have more versatility values, then by all means it's gonna be stronger. But with our current versatility values, it's not that crazy. This is only gonna scale well while the expansion goes further. Now, for the next choices, usually what happens is you have one route that has a Potency Conduit, which has a passive that does no damage at all. And there's usually also a route that goes to a Finesse Conduit, which does some damage. In this case, it doesn't do any damage, but you'll most likely be going for this one, just because it has a Potency Conduit. And the passive you get here is defeating an enemy lowers the cooldown of your Vial of Serenity by 1 second. It doesn't say that it's 1 minute cooldown, but if you use it, I can't use it because I'm full HP, but if you use it, it goes on a 1 minute cooldown, which means that you would have to defeat 60 enemies to, well, completely reduce it if you want to instantly refresh it. But once you use it, it works just like a health stone. You can only use it once per combat, as far as I know. So this is not really useful on boss fights. The only places where it's useful is if you would do stuff in the open world, and you really need that cooldown reduction. Or you would do stuff in Mythic Plus where you kill a big pack and then you want it for the next pack immediately. But 1 minute cooldown is not that long, so... Now the non-damaging ones, which you'll most likely not go for, but I'll go over them anyway, is defeating an enemy grants you 10% movement speed for 20 seconds. It's increased if you defeat a powerful enemy. This is nice just for World Quest stuff. If you can change it easily, which I think you can't, as far as I know. You can only change it once per week. Then this would be useful, but we'll have to see. But yeah, this is fairly okay. Then File of Serenity heals you for 30% additional health, but all its healing is done over 10 seconds. This is not too bad. This is actually really good. This would mean it goes does 50% of your HP over 10 seconds, which means every second you do 5% of your HP healed, which is obviously a lot better than the default. Now the next one, you always get this Endurance Conduit. Then you have a choice between Bond of Friendship, which when you defeat an enemy, you reduce the cooldown of your Steward's non-file services by 1 second, and Walk Together, which makes Pelagos send you crafting materials, which increase for every dungeon, raid, battleground, arena, and quest completed while soulbound. This one, Bond of Friendship, is completely useless, at least in its current state. If you hover over the Summon Steward, it says your Steward additionally offers access to a selection of useful amenities each once per day. So if there's 4 different things you can do with them, they're all on a 24-hour cooldown, which means that if you use if you use any of the services at the start of a session, if you want to use it again 1 hour later, you need to kill 79,200 enemies just to get the cooldown to be ready again in 1 hour. Now this one, however, crafting materials sounds really nice, mainly because at the start of the expansion, obviously stuff is going to be worth a lot more, which means that this one seems like the better option in every situation. Now then you get a Potency Conduit, and then you get a choice, which you'll probably go for Potency Conduit. And then the last one, Vesper Totem, increases your mastery by 5% for 20 seconds, and occasionally expels Sorrowful Memories. When you walk through these orbs that drop, you get 3% extra on the 5% mastery. The 5% mastery, it works the exact same as the versatility, where if I would pop my ability here, it goes from 29 to 30. Because it's 5% on the 237. It's not 5% actual mastery value. So this is more useful than the versatility one in terms of how much it will give us while it's up. Mainly because we have a lot more mastery, or we will have a lot more mastery most likely at the start of the expansion than we will versatility. But overall, it's not that crazy. It's like, if you combine both the versatility and the mastery, you get probably not even 1% DPS. So overall, in my opinion, Pelagos is kind of meh right now. He's probably the best one for DPS, but I'm not convinced. Now the next one. The first, we can choose either because none of them are linked to a Potency Conduit. First one is File of Serenity renders you immune to curse, disease, poison, and bleed effects for 15 seconds. And the second one is while above 90% health, you increase nearby party members' maximum health by 5%. Now the first one, which makes you immune for 15 seconds, this sounds really strong for PvP if you're against a rogue, or I don't even know what other classes. Yeah, rogue sounds the most insane just because of poison and bleed, or feral druid, also lots of bleeds. This sounds insane in PvP. In PvE, I'm not sure if there's a boss that does any of these things and he keeps reapplying it, then it might actually be really good because you can just be immune for 15 seconds. Or potentially, yeah, you can maybe bypass some mechanics, who knows. The other one, however, seems more useful because if you increase your party members' HP by 5%, if you're all topped up and there's a massive hit coming in on a progression boss, maybe something that would ordinarily kill you because your gear is really bad or something, might just make you survive with a few percent HP left. So I would go for this one most of the time, but this one, you can't underestimate this one just in case there is a boss where this could be used. Then you get Potency Conduits, then you get a choice out of these 3. This one goes to Potency Conduit, so you probably go for this one. This one is also a damage increase, but let's go over them. So the damage increase you get where you go to Finesse Conduits is critical strike chance is increased by 1% for every nearby enemy, up to 5%. Works exactly like the versatility. So if you have 5 enemies nearby, you'll get 5% crit, but I can't show it to you right now because she's locked, but you'll get maybe 1% crit. Maybe, if you have 5 enemies nearby. So it's kind of bad. The middle one, which you probably won't go, but your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to decrease your target's movement speed by 30% for 20 seconds. This actually sounds kind of nuts for PvP. but I don't play PvP, so I don't care. If this chance to decrease movement speed is high, maybe it could be used in some situations in raid, but I doubt that there's a boss where you will have to pick this, where you have things like our Earthbind Totem or just Druid Knockback, all that kind of stuff. And then the last one, which you'll most likely go because it's linked to a Potency Conduit, is when receiving healing while above 70% health or healing an ally that's above 70% health, 3% of the healing is repeated on the target over 5 seconds. It's okay, it's just a slight healing increase. But yeah, it's not too bad, it's not fantastic either. Then Endurance Conduits, then you get a choice again. First one is after 5 seconds out of combat, gain a shield for 10% of your healing of your health, lasting for 30 seconds. Or while above 90% health, your mounted movement speed is increased by 10%. Now, Cleansing Rites sounds really good for Mythic Plus. You end a fight, you get the shield, you heal up, you start the fight, and everybody, well, you have a 10% of your health shield, which it sounds pretty decent. It's also nice for World Quests if, for example, you fight some enemies and you run to the next pack, and every time you get a shield, and once you get enough HP, you're never going to lose HP again, because your shield will be strong enough. However, for World Quests, I think this one will be better, just because we have healing capabilities. We don't have to sit down to drink or eat whenever we lose health. So if we are just above 90% health, we can move around the map faster. Since we don't have flying mounts at the start of the expansion, this actually sounds really strong just to do your World Quest quicker, just because you can get around faster. Then the last one is called, the last node, which you always get, is called Valiant Strikes. You and your nearby allies' critical strikes grant you stacks of Valiant Strikes up to 40. At 40 stacks you heal yourself for some value of your maximum health, and up to 4 nearby allies for half this effect over 10 seconds. I don't know how much health you actually get because the value is bugged out, but this actually sounds really strong. I'd honestly consider this as a better choice than the final node of Pelagos, even as a DPS, just because from what I've seen, especially with Enhancement Shamans in the group, it stacks up super quickly. So depending on how big the heal is, this would be better than a 0.5% to 1% more DPS, partially because if these kinds of nodes are strong enough, healers can cast more DPS abilities. And if on a fight of a few minutes, a Restoration Shaman would, for example, cast 1 extra damaging ability, I'm pretty sure it would end up being more of a DPS increase overall, not for you, but overall, than picking Pelagos and not having this effect. Now let's go over the last one, which is our Owlboy, Forge Light Prime Mechanicus. He has 2 choices at the start, but only one goes into a Potency Conduit for now. But the first one is File of Serenity, also knocks nearby enemies away from you. This sounds like a nightmare for enhancement. I don't know why you would ever want this. This sounds like more of a problem than it is something good. Like imagine being in raid, the Death Knight stacks, you take a lot of damage from something, like the Death Knight grips everything, you take some damage, you use your health thing, and then all the mobs get knocked away. Sounds horrible. On bosses as well, there's ads, you want to use it. Maybe even forgot that you have it. You use your health thing, you just knock all the mobs away. I don't know how much this knockback is, but it sounds bad in any situation. Now the second one is Forge Light Filter. When reduced below 35% health, your File of Serenity automatically heals you and consumes a charge. Now it sounds good on paper, but we have, what's it called? Nature's Guardian, which is a way better version of this. It heals for more, and it has a cooldown of 45 seconds. So I don't see why you would want to get Forge Light Filter, to be honest, because there's a lot of times where you're below 35% HP, but that doesn't mean you're in danger. Like you take a big raid hit, everybody drops, but that doesn't mean that there's another big hit incoming instantly. So in a lot of situations, this is actually a bad thing, because then you can't use it for example, if you plan to use it at a certain part of the fight, you can't plan for this anymore, because it could trigger before. Now there's one thing I want to note about this. It says it heals you and consumes a charge. Usually it goes on cooldown when you use it for the rest of the fight, but for all we know, maybe for some reason, it can consume all your charges, even though it's on cooldown. So if that's the case, then maybe it's good. Then you get an Endurance Conduit. Then we have another choice to make where we either go for Potency Conduit or we go for a Damaging Node and an Endurance Conduit. The middle one won't give us damage, but let's go over them anyway. So the first one is damaging a new enemy grants you 2% haste for 10 seconds, up to 5 stacks. So this works exactly like the versatility one again. You get 10% more haste of what you have. You don't get 10% actual haste. And obviously it's only really going to be up if you do some Mythic Plus for a part of your fight, or if you do World Quests. Then the second one, which you probably won't go for, is when reduced below 35% health, you stun nearby enemies for 3 seconds. This effect may only occur once every 5 minutes. Kinda nice, maybe good for tanks. Yeah, it's probably pretty good for tanks actually, but it's not that good for us. Then the last one, after 5 seconds of standing still, incoming stun and incapacitate durations are reduced by 30%. Lasts for 5 seconds once you start moving. This sounds completely useless, maybe good for PvP, but in Arena, I don't think you're gonna have a lot of situations where you can stand still for 5 seconds. I mean, there's gonna be some, of course, but yeah, I don't see this being very valuable. In the raids, maybe if they make a boss where the boss has an intermission and he stuns you or something, maybe this will somehow reduce it and you can cheese it and start the DPS early. But I doubt they'll forget that this exists, right? So I don't think it's gonna be pretty useful, but it has a Potency Conduit, so yeah, it's the best one. The next one is Potency Conduit. Oh no, it's Finesse Conduit. Then we get a choice between regenerating materials, where if you cast a heal or you receive healing, you have a chance to improve the remaining durability on your armor, which if you're poor, sure, maybe. And then the other one, fall damage decreased by 20%, and after falling, damage you take is reduced by some value for 30 seconds. This one seems useless, but it actually has some uses. I've thought about it. If you're doing Mythic Plus and you have Volcanic and you get hit by Volcanic, I think with the new Volcanic where you get knocked up, if you fall, I think you take some fall damage, which would mean if the damage reduction is high enough, it might actually be good. Imagine doing high Mythic Plus and there's a boss that can one-shot you, but you just get hit by Volcanic on purpose, and then the boss hit will maybe make you survive with a full percentage HP. Who knows? Then maybe there's some boss in the raids that will knock you up and you take fall damage. Might be good for that, but this one is very, very niche. I don't think it's very useful, but sure as hell think it's more useful than regenerating materials. Then the last one is Bronze Call to Action. After using 120 spells and abilities, your next spell or ability summons Bron, who attacks and heals your targets for God knows how long. It doesn't say. It just says he heals and damages. I don't think he stays for that long. I tested him out. I can't remember how long he lasted. But the damage and healing he does is fuck all. Like, it's so not worth it. Overall, I see Forge Lights Prime Mykonikos as being completely useless, and I would never go for him. Especially because also the first initial nodes look more damaging than they look useful. So yeah, in its current state, I would never pick it, and I think it's useless. In general, I would be going for Clea, most likely in most situations, just because I really like to have group utility. I think this might be very strong depending on what they tune it to, and in general, it's just a very nice soulbind in my opinion. Then if all you want to go for is your personal damage, I think Pelagos is your best bet because, well, he's the only one that really gives, outside of your conduits, gives you some damage without having to not pick Potency Conduits. So for easy content, I definitely pick him, but for harder content, I definitely pick Clea. In general, I think the Kyrian in its current state is one of the better options, mainly because so much of it relies on the Covenant class ability to the point that Soulbinds will only make a difference in choice if the two are fairly close together on single targets, because, well, most bosses, the single target is the most important part. Of course, for Mythic Plus, which ability is the best will probably change completely. It's probably going to be different than for raids, because I'm sure there's going to be one ability that's more AoE and one that's more single target. I'm not going to go over all the Potency Conduits because they're the same for every specific Covenant, and the one that is not the same is the one that affects the Covenant ability, which I already went over at the start of the video. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not going like, oh, Pelagos is obviously the best one because he has 3 Potency Conduits. Recently, Eon confirmed that every single Soulbind will have 3 Potency Conduits, so those should be a non-issue. There is a big chance that these might change completely in the next few weeks, but we'll have to see. Maybe I need to make another video, or I guess we'll see when we get there. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I'm gonna be going over the different covenants in the next few weeks. The next few videos will probably come out slower because my holidays are ending, so I can only really work on videos in the weekend. But anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time.